Hey everyone, I'm kind of sick again, well, still, but I'm gonna try to drop a quick little video. I was like 16 minutes of footage into this take, or I mean, into this video, but the last take, but it kind of got all like choppy. I was just basically rambling a lot, but it didn't sound very coordinated because I was like ending a bunch of takes like in the middle of sentences and restarting and all this shit. So I figured it was better to restart when I had a full, idea in mind of what I was going to make, because like having a direction really helps like the process of just making something, and the viewer can also tell because the shit is just way more coherent and flows 10 times better. Kind of like if you were developing a game, just I don't know, unrelated, but like if you were developing a game and you fired a lot of the people that kind of made the thing run in the background and kind of made the whole atmosphere, and you just replaced them with either like the cheapest replacements you can find or just straight up AI, and you released a soulless slot product, people wouldn't enjoy it very much. Kind of like what Black Ops 6 did, and it seems that they're now facing the consequences. And I mean, this was bound to happen from the very beginning. People were saying, well, the executives, the important people at Activision were saying, we want to generate sales, but overall awareness of the game coming out is always a focus. Making Black Ops 6 the number one game this fall. Overall, I just want people to like the campaign, and the work that we're doing as the marketing group. I think this was just bound to happen. Like, obviously, COD and Activision can't have the same, team year after year. People have lives and shit. And a lot of the time, adding new employees can bring new features, ideas, and, just new perspective can be like, oh, the intern found this bug in the game, and now the game runs like twice as efficiently because nobody has ever thought to look at that, because we all have experience with this engine, and we never thought to look at it like that. That can be how it goes, but when you're replacing people with Chat GPT and generative AI art, nobody fucking wins. Like, having a culture in the company where, they're asking voice actors and artists to sign over the rights to their voice and to everything that they've created, so they can just be replaced by an AI and then promptly fired. Why would anybody agree to that? Like, what a slap in the face. And, the people that can't be replaced by AI, like the people running the back end, like the netcode and shit, they're seeing all the people get replaced by AI and just how the company is treating people, and they're just leaving before it's too late, before there's some huge PR disaster and the company slowly starts sinking. They just, want to get out of that. It's not like they're going to go broke. Like, if Treyarch goes under tomorrow, like, a lot of these people have essential skills that are needed because it's like a fucking $1 trillion industry. But, there are so many companies that need people making games, and they know they can make good games. They're like, why would I settle for all of these stupid rules that the management is putting in at Treyarch, basically restricting how we're allowed to make the game so it can hit the check boxes that the CEOs want, and it can be as monetizable as possible, because to them that's all that matters. But when you cheap out on a bunch of shit and you like try to just pass it off and charge $10 more than what the industry standard has been forever, people are gonna complain, because it's not like how it was, I don't know, 15 years ago, how like, I don't know, they could release COD Ghosts and people would still buy it. They'd complain about it, but they're like, at least the graphics are better this time. Like, at least this is something new that hasn't really been explored before, like what they did with Extinction. Like, they may not always completely fall in love with the game, but everybody always comes back to Call of Duty just to see what it has to offer, because like a lot of time and effort and passion go into these games, and it's fun to see like how they improve from year after year, and developers putting references to older games and hints to future games and shit like that. But when there's no soul and the team is constantly being switched around, and like the IP that we grew attached to is fucking meaningless, and they're basically competing with their own games now because like why would I spend $70 for a subpar product that is probably just gonna shadow ban me anyway and just put me in lobbies with cheaters because they don't have an actual anti-cheat that works, and they're not gonna ever spend the money to hire an Overwatch team or to have a volunteer thing. So you're just pretty much stuck in purgatory if you get reported enough times. Like if you're used to fucking playing other games and you're tracking people through walls, you might get reported and stuff. Like you don't even have to be like snapping on the people through four walls and getting headshots. If you're just like watching an enemy run past the door, just guessing how fast he's moving, assuming he's running in a straight line, and then you just shoot where he should be, like full auto, and you spray him, and like 3 out of the 20 bullets hit him and kill him. If that guy gets pissed off and reports you, congratulations, now your copy of Black Ops 6 is ruined because you're put in this shadow ban lobby with a bunch of other people that got reported, and a lot of the time it's because they were actually cheating. So you're just in cheaterland now, bud. And a lot of people have like varying experiences playing BO6 because a lot of people are having a lot of fun, but I'm like, why are people having fun in this game? It's so frustrating trying to play it. They don't even ban people. But what I realized is, yeah, they don't ban people. They just put you in the room where only the banned people should be. Like, I'm pretty sure after putting you in purgatory, there's no process after that. There's no way to redeem it. And they certainly don't ban the accounts unless they're just, like, blatantly typing racial slurs or committing credit card fraud with COD points. Or they're spinning around into the air, headshotting 20 people. And then, you know, maybe if they get, like, enough manual reports, like the entire lobby, maybe they'll just get manually banned. That's pretty much it. Like, you have to be testing how far you can cheat to actually get banned. And then it might take a day or two. I've seen people on Nuketown 24/7 just staring into the sky and hitting headshots on my entire team. And everybody in the chat was like, report him. And everybody's like, yep, just reported him. And then like I queued 2 games later and then that same guy was still doing the same shit. So I get like they need to have a place for all the cheaters. But if you're not going to actually sort through the ones that are actually cheaters or not, and you're not going to actually ban the cheaters, no way that many people are cheating on the game. Like, I can always find a lobby in a shadow ban match. Literally. The only time I couldn't is when I was playing with a friend that literally just bought the game. So the game thought I was 2-boxing because I was playing with a level 1. And it put me in Nuketown with like a bunch of bots. And the one person that joined the enemy team that wasn't a bot was wall hacking and just holding angles, staring at paint drying, and still getting kills. So yeah, I gotta love Black Ops 6. I'm pretty sure they just replaced the people in charge of, you know, running an anti-cheat and overviewing support tickets to see if somebody's actually cheating and to unban them. They just replaced them with an AI algorithm. But then it's like the AI needed an update for its API, and they just never implemented it, and it stopped working, and it's just been, you know, giving bad outputs, like errors and errors, and nobody's ever there to like check on what's going on because they're like, oh wow, we sure caught a lot of cheaters. This will look great on our Twitter, won't it? They're probably just gonna do the shit that they always do. I've never played Modern Warfare 2 or 3, but I think on one of those games on Twitter, they're like, yeah, we just banned thousands and thousands of cheaters, but that literally means that all of the people that have been flagged, instead of instantly banning them, they literally waited until the ban wave day. They just let them keep playing the game, just blatantly cheating, ruining the game for actual players. And then they just waited to ban them all in one day because they wanted the number to look bigger. Like, it makes sense, like, oh yeah, that's cool, we banned 1 million cheaters in one day. Instead of like, oh yeah, we banned 200 cheaters today. that just goes to show how easy it is to cheat in the game and how lenient they are with it, and that they would rather not protect the game and make it a fun experience and rather look good on social media. So the next time Activision is like, hey, we just banned like tens of thousands of cheaters, come and play now, because I mean, now the game is going to be so much fun. Now, like, a bunch of cheaters are off of the game, and the player count does go up when they do that. So I'm thinking they intentionally just, keep these cheaters in like limbo lobbies, but allow them to play the game, and then just wait to all suspend them on the same day, so they get good press. But the thing is, like, you're putting actual players, like people that are just reported enough times, get in these lobbies, and it's like the people that are in charge have never played a video game or some shit. They're just doing shit that doesn't make sense, and cheaping out on obvious things that we need for quality of life, like an anti-cheat, or servers that are more than like 30 hertz. Actually, I looked it up and people have tested it and have found at times like 62 milliseconds per packet was the latency on the servers, and 1,000 divided by 62 is like just above 16. So these servers are 16 hertz servers. It depends on like the game mode and shit, but yeah, they're supposed to be 20 hertz. I thought 30 hertz was bad. Like, people, just like random people running public community servers on Battlefield are getting 60, and that can be fine. Like, games like Crunker are still fun with horribly slow servers, because like, I mean, to be fair, Crunker isn't that big of a studio or anything. I don't know why there aren't basic quality of lives in a $70 quadruple A game, because like in a quadruple A game, shouldn't it be like, all of the basics that we would expect in terms of quality, plus some cutting edge innovation in terms of like graphics or some shit, if it's supposed to be the next $100 million game. However much they spent on it, they spent like a goddamn movie budget, and it doesn't feel like a triple A game. I don't know where most of the budget went. Did they spend like 95 million on marketing or some shit? Like, it's questionable where all this money went. Even with like a limited budget, all they really have to do is just the same thing every year. Call of Duty is literally just a money printer, and as long as you make sure the game is just functioning properly and upgrade the graphics every now and then you literally just rain money from the sky. I don't even know how they could fuck that up. Like, literally, if they make them year after year, they could cannibalize a lot of the old parts of the game. And like, I don't even know how, because things like the hit registration and the optimization, just generally how the game runs, even varying on different systems and console, it just runs worse. It looks slightly worse, and there's so many buggy things wrong with the game, down to the UI, down to shooting people and getting hit markers and no damage, and the blood effects that they said were erroneous. And when they released an update, we all thought they were just gonna fix the hit registration and at least just turn off whatever weird match manipulation that they're doing. All they did was just make the blood effects server side. They're adding new mechanics and new ways to manipulate the matches, and basically just decide when you're having too much fun and say, fuck you, we're gonna place you in a lobby with a bunch of sweats, or we think you're stupid and we're gonna place you in a lobby with literal bots because we think that if you get more kills, you're gonna want to play the game all day. Like, according to a spreadsheet that should make me more engaged with the game and make me give Activision more money, when all they really did was just remove any soul out of it. And it doesn't feel accomplishing to sit there and kill a bunch of bots or a bunch of low level players, or to get stomped like 5 lobbies in a row by people literally cheating because I'm in shadow ban lobbies, or people that don't have anything better to do and have just been playing COD all day, and I'm thrown in matches with them back to back to back because they're taking extra steps to manipulate the game and basically get around the stupid system that Activision added. And I don't blame them. Like, sometimes you want to play against new players, like when the game is first released in the first couple of months and there's always new players. People, that's like the prime time to use a VPN and 2box because everyone's account isn't like ingrained into the algorithm yet. So there's always lobbies that are going to be very, very mixed up. I was about to say very varied, but that wouldn't make any goddamn sense. And they don't even do it well. Like, it's so obvious if you look on the Activision Twitter, there's always people complaining about it. And the most that they do is just say like a passive aggressive tweet and ignore the problem completely and just basically say that we're stupid and it's just an error with the game. And even if so, big games that are millions and tens of millions of dollars shouldn't have errors like this. And they should have people that could fix it that quickly, but instead of fixing it, they release updates to just hide the fucking facts. Like, it literally makes no sense. It's like they're in a cycle of every year. Instead of just spending money and just making sure that their literal money printer is well oiled and just releasing a game that's good because they literally have infinite money. They could make a good game if they wanted to. Activision would rather just spend like half of the budget on every game, covering up like all the marketing and all the low sales and all the bugs to generate more hype, and spend a bunch of money on marketing and covering up how shitty the last game was and how much of a flop it was. And it's not like when Call of Duty Ghosts drops and everybody remembers it for how bad it is. Like, it was just a genuinely bad game because they were too experimental with it, and you know, they just fucked around and found out. They just made a bad product and they learned from it. It's like they're purposely trying to make their games just good enough but have zero soul, so they're not memorable, you know, because that works out in both ways, because people barely even remember playing Vanguard or can barely tell Modern Warfare from Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3. And it's like you kind of forget about how shitty of a game it was because like it was alright. I got through my camo challenges, and you know, I played Warzone, or I played the Zombies DLCs or something, and yeah, it was alright, I guess. Like, you know, it wasn't a bad, shitty, broken indie game. Like, it was a playable game, and the graphics look good, and I mean, it's COD, so there's always people to play with. So, you know, of course people buy it, and they don't really remember like the specifics of these annoying ass bugs and features. Like, they switch it up just enough so that there's a reason to actually buy the game and care about it. But in the first place, they didn't actually want to put in that much effort. And, you know, you don't really need to switch it up that much. Call of Duty works, they do the same thing every year. And honestly, they could just release the same shit every year and barely switch it up. But now the game is getting worse. Like, the base elements of the game, like running around and shooting and connecting in lobbies and starting the game and having to input all of your settings over and over again because they keep deleting. Even though this game was in beta and tens of thousands of people played it, and it released and sold 4 million copies for about a month straight, every time I launched a game, it would just reset my config. Like, I genuinely can't wait for the boomers to be a thing of the past, because hopefully in the future, like, when people that grew up playing video games actually start running video game companies, and maybe they'll make video games that don't forget basic features like shooting people and making sure that the shots actually get counted. Like, I'm pretty sure all of the budget for playtesting and quality assurance went to the marketing department. It's like they didn't ask people that actually played the video game if it's playable. Like, I get it, not every person in the world plays video games. I get it if you're just trying to do your job, but you know, out of a video game company, you think one person would have spoken up like that. It's just poor quality, and people are starting to catch on, and the player base is fucking sinking to the floor. And I guess they did successfully find the most efficient ways to just get the most sales and the most dollars on the spreadsheet as possible by any means necessary. But now I'm starting to think that their method is burnt out, because people that bought Black Ops 6 just aren't even playing it anymore. They couldn't be bothered to play the new $70 Call of Duty because none of their friends are. One, because if you try to join your friend, there's like a 50% chance that they're shadow banned. And two, because it's just a shit game, I'm not gonna lie. We're starting to see this over and over again, like with Concord, how they made a game that, like, they actually made a decently working game. Like, it was pretty functional. I mean, they built it from the ground up. They weren't just, you know, dogpiling on top of code every year and switching around the staff more than every year. Like, every couple of months they're firing a good fraction of their team. You know, at least Concord was made with an idea in mind, but it was something that nobody even fucking wanted. Like, with all of that money, they couldn't spend like 1% of it to go do a bunch of surveys and collect data on like what people are actually playing and what the market is looking like, because they try to appeal to so many like lowest common denominator factors that all of those factors weren't enough to pull anybody in, because they were trying to play it safe so much. And they were also in an oversaturated market, and like if people wanted to play one of those games, like one of those like hero shooter games, people don't tend to switch much in those games. Like, people sink thousands and thousands of hours into either like Siege or TF2 or something, and they don't really often switch to the new game unless it's something innovative, not just something bland that looks like it was just made in a fucking video game factory. Like, people kind of feel insulted when you start a brand new IP and expect people to just start playing and getting into the game just because you spent millions of dollars on marketing and have a bunch of cosmetics and shit. Like, it's kind of insulting because, well, then you know that they just want you to buy the cosmetics because they've already sunk so much on marketing. Like, I've already said this before, but like, not every person at a studio needs to have an absolute love for video games, but I mean, you should at least ask someone who does. Like, people can think for themselves, and they can see like this new IP just spawned and they're already selling a bunch of cosmetics that have like no soul into it. Like, there's just no drive to go to that game. And instead of just making a game and expecting people to buy it because, well, you have a high budget, so the game is obviously good, you should have just bought something that people want, like an IP that's been dormant for a couple of years or some shit. Companies always buy, you know, random game studios. Like, a lot of the times, game studios that have cult classics and shit just get shut down so the main company can just get more attention on their main IPs instead of like releasing something new into it and basically just turning on a secondary money printer, or at least incorporating it into another game. But Black Ops 6 didn't even have the problem that Concord had or Sony had. Like, they already knew the target audience. They already had a framework to make it for a while before they started firing people willy-nilly. They had people that were very efficient and familiar and loved by the community and, you know, knew a good direction to take the series. But instead, they just go, no, we're not going to do any of that. And to all the fans, by the way, fuck you, you're wrong. According to all of these numbers, you should love the game. So anybody that's saying that they don't like the game and that it's not fun and that it's just a shitty game, those people are just being contrarians, or that it's just an outlier, or that they're just straight up wrong and that it's just a bug with the game and it'll get fixed. Or instead of just, you know, denying it or ignoring it, Sometimes they'll just straight up cease and desist people. Like, that's not suspicious at all. But the method is starting to get burnt out, and it seems like that they're really just spending a lot of money covering up for the previous game all the time, and just fucking drowning it in marketing and building hype. But all of that doesn't mean shit when people fall for the hype and then they buy it and then they see that it's, not really that good. And then they do the same thing for three fucking games in the series in a row. Or, I kind of forgot about Vanguard, like four. People are like starting to like lose faith in Activision, because it's a literal pattern. And I guess 50 million people might buy a game, and it's not really that good. There could be a number of excuses, and people are just like, oh, well, I've been playing COD basically half my life. I'm still going to buy the next one because, everybody else is going to be playing it. But now it's to the point where people are just like, the games don't even fucking work properly, and every time they do end up actually switching something for once, it's a change that's genuinely hated by the community, and then Activision just goes, no, fuck you, you're wrong. So people would rather just play an old Call of Duty if they wanted to play COD. Like, a lot of people still play Black Ops 3 and even Black Ops 2, not even like Plutonium, like just straight up Black Ops 2 with backwards compatibility on the Xbox, and the PC version obviously just works forever. I'm not sure if the servers are up, but there's usually custom servers. But Activision won't even let like their longtime fans have fun in old games that they've already made their money on and they've already ran their course. Like that mod with Modern Warfare Remastered, that remasters Modern Warfare Remastered. I know it's a tongue twister, but that mod, they added their own anti-piracy in it, so it looked in your like PC registry to see if you had a Steam copy, and thousands and thousands of people bought this game that's been released like, I don't know, better half of a decade ago. That's a remaster of a game that was released in 2006, or was COD, or that might have been Modern Warfare 2. Maybe COD 4 was like 2004. But they literally ensured that people bought the game, and Activision saw the people buying the game, and they literally waited for people to play the game for a bit, waiting for the mod to release, like just playing on the game and practicing, getting ready for like the game to be active for once. And then Activision waits for about an hour before the mod is supposed to be publicly released and sends them a cease and desist after like a majority of the people have already been playing the game for at least 2 hours in anticipation, waiting for like the mod to actually be released. Like, that is the most evil shit I can think about. And it's not even like they're competing with their own game, because a lot of the people that stick to the older Call of Duties don't play the newer ones that much. I mean, yeah, I guess there is like a lot of overlap, but the amount of players that they have on COD is nothing, and they're just getting extra sales for free from the work of another person, and then they reward them by threatening to sue them. Literally so evil and soulless. Like, are you just not allowed to have fun in these games anymore? Is it just like a fucking slot machine where you just have to constantly be putting in like small increments of money? Like, you're only allowed to have matches that are actually decent and playable if you spend like $5 or some shit. Like, I don't buy cosmetics in COD. I haven't since like Black Ops 2, but I'm pretty sure that if you buy more shit in the item shop, what's it called, engagement optimized matchmaking is gonna go easy on you, and probably the skill based damage too. Like, that's probably like the main reason they won't talk about it, and they're making people sign like 5-year long non-disclosure agreements and sending cease and desist about all this shit, because no way that it's just a system that was poorly implemented to like I guess make it an even playing field. I can see why on paper that would work. Like, they do everything goddamn on paper and spreadsheets. None of this shit works out in practice. But like, I could see why they would think making it more even and balanced would work for everybody, because games like Fortnite do that with bot lobbies and skill-based matchmaking. But at least they actually do it kind of well. Like, it's still really noticeable that like the matches are kind of pre-selected based on like how good you're doing. Like, they decide when you're having too much fun practically, and then put you in lobbies where you get stomped on. But I mean, like, at least it's not insulting to my intelligence. Activision could have saw that this company has successfully implemented this shit, and they're like, oh well, their revenue and their share prices are going way the fuck up. Maybe let's do that. Understandable. But with how shady they're being about it, and all the non-disclosure agreements, and the fact that they're denying it on Twitter all the time, and uh, just basically telling people that they're wrong when a majority of the community agrees, and it's basically been confirmed by ex-developers, I feel like it would have been easier to just make mediocre games year after year, and people would just keep eating up the slop. But instead, they insist on making a bad game that's a thinly veiled slot machine practically, and they fire any developer that has a problem with it, and all the developers that do stay on board, they make them sign a 5-year long non-disclosure agreement. And if they show any signs of thinking that it might be a little bit unethical, it might just be bad for the quality of the game in general, they fire them either like sometimes like in the middle of like working through games, and that is just why the games are shitty and buggy half the time, even though it's a new release of Call of Duty. You just have to add oil to the machine. Practically it's the same game every year. Or they just fire them as soon as their 5-year non-disclosure agreement is up. And if they say anything or are suspected of like doing interviews with people, talking about the truth of this game, they sue them, or they send them a non-disclosure agreement threatening to sue them. Like, I'm starting to think Activision is just secretly like a money laundering front for the mafia or some shit. Maybe that's why they mainly switched to like the proprietary launcher for BattleNet. Because why would you want to play on Steam and sell your game on Steam, where first of all, Steam takes like 30% of the profits, and also it's publicly trackable how many people are playing a game online on Steam. Instead, they're like, we're just gonna mainly release it on these platforms where you can't actually view the player count, because Activision and Blizzard own the main launcher, so the Steam sales could not even be indicative of the player count, which they usually are. They usually correlate. People playing the game on other launchers don't have a different experience, so if people get sick of the game on one, it's gonna be generally correlated. But the game gets buggier, and the way that they make it gets lazier. Like, they're literally doing AI this time, and shitty AI, like with 6 fingers, and suddenly it still gets 500 million sales and rakes in so much goddamn money. It literally doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna stop trying to make any sense of it before I have a brain aneurysm and I just keel over and drop dead on the floor. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for making it this far into this godforsaken rambling session. And leave a like if Skibbity Toilet the video game will outsell Modern Warfare 4.